Hey everyone, it's the Cocoa Nomad here, and welcome back to the channel. And in this video or audio, depending on where you're listening, I want to talk about this rule that I came across that I found very interesting, and I'm actually going to try to employ my own journey to financial independence. And if you're new to this channel, I talk a lot about remote work, travel, location, and financial independence. So stick around. I'm going to talk a lot about this, and I've got some new types of videos coming. But in this particular one, I want to set the table using a rule in regards to income streams. Now, I've recorded a video. I have another one that I talk about the 7 streams of income that I've planned for next year, for 2022. And for the rest of this year, I'm basically setting the table for that, making steps, preparing so that I can start to get ready so that those sources can start generating income for me in the following year. Now, I'm not going to be mad if it starts coming in a little early. If Christmas comes earlier than even Christmas, it's a good thing. So the 10% rule, though, is the rule that I encountered while reading the Making of a Millionaire .com website. And I think you can find it on Medium as well. But in essence, this rule basically means that if every year you can replace an additional 10% of your current income doing work that you love, you can achieve financial freedom in 10 years. So I like that idea because I'm always doing different things. And I wanted to have an opportunity to sort of frame the work that I was doing, not just in terms of doing what I love, because I've constantly done that. Lots of the things that I love to do not only don't make me money, they cost me a lot of money. So I've decided to start making some efforts with these income streams to sort of continue to do things that I love, but have some of those things that I love generate income. And for me, I'm a big proponent of making sure that the things that you do as side income ventures are the intersections of your own talents, your own aspirations, and what's valuable in the marketplace. And I'll do another video where we really deep dive into that, and maybe even have a course where I walk you through how to discover that for yourself. Not even maybe, it's coming. So, but let's dive into this 10% rule and how I'm going to use it or why I'm using it. And the primary thing is two phases or two approaches or two reasons why I'm using this rule or why it appeals to me. And the first one is diversification. In the examples given in the article, it starts with one side venture and one main source of income. So your main source of income is the income source that's covering your living expenses. That's how you're making your living, paying your bills. Hopefully it pays enough that you can even afford to do some savings, maybe put some things aside for retirement. But if not, that's probably one of the main reasons why you're looking at that second income, that side income. But when you get started, it's a little tough to just have that side income source be equal to that of your main income source. And so if it takes time, it takes time. And many of us, may have 10 years, at least until retirement. If you have more, you're greater advantage because, you have more time to let these dollars work for you as you accumulate them. So the diversification is the first thing that I think is of supreme value. And the nice thing about the diversification is as you're growing this side income or multiple side incomes, you're hedging against the unpredictability. So you never know. This past couple of years has just been bananas, right? All kinds of upheaval, all kinds of things changing. Our lives are just completely different. And so moving forward, it's a good idea to say, okay, I know things can be unpredictable. What can I do to sort of help manage and mitigate the risk of that unpredictability? So that diversification can give you that. Now, personally, I'm doing this because my past, I don't know how many years of my life has been full of fits and starts. Like I start something and I stop. I work full-time jobs and I stop. I work part-time jobs. I do a lot of what I call mini retirements. So I've done that multiple times, and I'll do a video where I dive into like the long periods of time where I've basically been retired. And so for me, the future of retirement looks a lot different. And I think for many people, so I can share that. But I do have that diversification, and I lacked that during that period of time. So even when I was quote unquote retired, I wasn't doing anything but enjoying my life and doing the hobbies and indulging the things that cost money. So money was always going out, no more money was coming in. which in the long term is not really a good idea. It's like you don't think about it when you're young. When you get a bit older, you start to think, oh, wow, probably should have done a couple of different things. So that's what I'm changing, grabbing and going for that diversification. And then the second thing is acceleration. As I just said, I spent a lot of my life enjoying myself, traveling, just living it up. Even when I didn't travel as much and lived in the States, I still just had a great time. And now I need to accelerate and play catch up because I'm getting a bit older now. I'm starting to think about retirement, but not so much just retirement for me. My mother is getting older and is getting to a point where she's going to have to retire, and I need to make sure that she is okay. So I need to accelerate. And before, my mindset was around sort of like, if you think in baseball, and if you're not familiar with baseball, this may go over your head, but there's a long ball strategy. I'm a big fan of the Atlanta Braves growing up in Atlanta. And in the 90s, they had this really great team. And this team, hit a lot of home runs and had this great pitching staff. And that's where they put their money. And to me, that pitching staff was great because they stopped other people from scoring. And in my mind, that's like having low cost of living, which I've always done. I've always tried to continue to live like I was in college, just not spend a lot of money on things, which helped a lot and gave me that flexibility to be able to take time off and just do these mini retirements and do what I needed because the money would really last a long time. But now I want to switch from that home run ball strategy where I just do one job for a year or do one client project for a few months, make enough money, and then do nothing for 6 to 9 months. Now I'm looking at a small ball strategy where I'm actually taking all of these little side incomes and just kind of chipping away, getting little hits, moving my monetary players around the bases to continually score. So, and I think that is going to be a better strategy for me moving forward. So, going into this approach for this 10%, how will that look? How will this small ball strategy look if I'm continually hitting, getting little wins, little pieces of income coming in? That's what is 10% appeal to me. I don't have to hit a home run. I don't have to have a super successful venture. I don't have to have my Amazon merch be this big thing that's making me 10, 15, $20,000 a month. I don't have an app in the app store that's going to do that same thing. My consulting can be just small and working with the people that I like working with. My consultant can be working on the projects that I like working on. I like my full-time job, which is why I went back to the company I used to work for. I actually love being there. So, these are the kinds of things that I'm looking at. So in my approach and breaking down this rule, I had to start from one place, and that is, that pitching scenario. And I just laid out the cost of living. And I'm still trying to keep my costs relatively low, but in terms of how I'm applying this 10% rule, I'm actually giving myself a little more leeway. For example, normally in the last probably 5 years, 5.5 years of me traveling around the world, my expenses have been much lower. They've been around, max about $1,800 a month. And then this past year, it's gone up a bit. And so I've done some things, whether it's, just stepped up my accommodations, like my current place. I have a 2-bedroom apartment where normally I would just rent a studio. I used to eat out on the street, eat a lot of street food. Now, I'm doing a little mix of that and going out to more restaurants and socializing a bit more. And I'm in a higher cost of living city, relatively speaking. I'm in Mexico City now. And Mexico City, while it's still less expensive than living in a lot of places in the US, it's not as cheap as how I was living in Chiang Mai, Thailand, for instance. It's like really, really inexpensive. But I want to use a higher number as my baseline for this 10% rule. So my number is going to be $2,800 per month. Now that's a lot higher. It's probably really higher than what I'm spending, but I want to give myself a little bit of buffer just in case things change, there's an emergency or something happens. So again, I want to hedge against that unpredictability. Now my full-time job pays enough, thankfully, to cover those expenses. So my goal in this first year is to replace 10% of that living expense, which is basically $282 per month from those side income streams. And then, according to the 10% rule, each year you want to increase that by 10%. So in my second year, my goal would be to increase to 20%, which would get me to $560 a month. And then each year, I'll strive to increase that by at least 10% until I reach 100% of my living expenses. Now, how am I doing it differently? I'm adding additional revenue streams. And again, I have the video about the 7 streams of income. So I've got different things going to work for me so that I can accelerate. That's the acceleration portion, to get there faster. So when I get to that point, hopefully it won't be 10 years. Maybe I can get there in 5 years. Maybe I can get there in 3 years. Who knows? But I'm setting the baseline for 10 years because that's what I'm looking at. And then I'll do all of these things. Take into account things can happen. Something could happen to my company. I could lose my job, or I could leave my job. I've done that before a lot. I could lose a client that I have for consulting. I could lose the YouTube channel. One of my info products might, just stop selling. People may not be interested in it anymore. We'll move on to use something else. So all of these things are possibilities. So I just want to be aware of those things going in and be proactive about planning for that. So now, if a particular income stream outperforms, like say, for instance, YouTube or one of my info products, the courses, does better than 30% in 1 year, I'm not going to say for the next year I need to do another 30%. The next year is still just an additional 10%. Slow and steady. I'm just going to keep chugging along. If things are doing great, that's great, but I'll just keep moving at this pace. 10 years, 10-year goal. If I get there faster, that's great, but I'm not going to try to keep pushing myself. That's pressure and stress that I have zero interest in having in my life. I've got enough things to worry about and enough things to do and enough people to care about that I don't have time to be putting unnecessary pressure on myself to race to get to this number. Okay. So if you're curious about the income streams, I have detailed them and I'll drop a link in the description so you can go look at that video and see. So finally, in closing in this approach, and I will be doing updates on the income streams coming up, I wanted to talk about some of the pros and cons. And the pros are there. I get diversification of my income stream. And if I miss one of my targets because I have many targets, I can still maintain the progress and not get discouraged. So that's the nice thing about having multiple streams instead of just a single one stream. And if things go well, of course, I get that acceleration and I can reach the goal faster, but I'm not pressuring myself to do so. So those are the two pros. But one of the big cons, or the only big con that I've seen so far, is that trying to maintain these mini streams can be very draining, physically, emotionally, mentally, just draining. And the caution is to not become a workaholic and to make this be more important than other things in my life. I mean, it has an importance in my life, but I want to make sure these things are in balance. Make sure that, I'm still taking enough time for myself, taking enough time to spend with friends and family, to be healthy. I don't want to adopt any unhealthy habits. I mean, I see a lot of people in a lot of industries, like people that work in finance or attorneys, they have this high stress jobs, they make a lot of money, they work a lot of hours, but then they have unhealthy habits and these addictions and unhealthy eating and all these kinds of things can creep in. And I have no interest in that. So I'm going to make sure that I maintain. And if some of these multiple streams are not, I'm not able to fit them, then they either just have to wait, a bit longer before I kick them in because I'm not doing them all at one time. So some of these things won't even kick in until a year, maybe even two from now. We'll see. I do small things to sort of like plant those seeds to make the, have some momentum, but not too much pressure on myself. So I can do small, consistent efforts to get it going. So that's the 10% rule. That's my take on it. And this is my approach. If you want to follow along on this journey, I will be doing monthly income stream reports. So you're going to want to click the subscribe button. Go ahead and click that like button while you're down there. It's so easy. It's just right there. And then click the bell to get notifications when the new videos come out. So come along this journey. Give me any comments of what you think about the 10% rule. Would you like to try something like this and follow along? I'd love to hear about it. Maybe you've already been doing it. Maybe you might be, in year 5 of this, and I'd love to hear about that too. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will talk to you soon. Cheers.